a couple of things. I was actually doing part of my video series. So researching on this lady, Emma Harris from Glow London. Glow is a PR firm working in UK. And she talks about a time when she was head of communications at Eurostar. She had a team of 300, and she would assume that it was natural for the entire team to party till 3 a.m. in the morning, but she would still expect everybody to show up at the desk at 8 a.m. the next day. And I think it was a self-awareness moment for her when health setback happened, to realize that, oh, I wasn't even aware of the kind of impact I was having on my people, the kind of expectations that I was placing on them and on myself, and the kind of health impact and the burnout that is likely to happen. And I think so that whole person leading, making that shift, making that change. And we always say that, like, when lean in came in, and Sheryl Sandberg, whether it is lean in or lean out, and all those conversations came in, one of the things that got highlighted also is that if managers are leaving, say you're leaving the workplace at 4 p.m. to go and pick up your kid, or to go and attend a show that's the kid's school is putting up, there was a guy who would loudly announce it to his team when he was leaving, just so that it legitimizes it and normalizes it for everybody else to do it. So sometimes you need to make that big noise about things that are doing, question them and ask them. And the other part is, when you're at the top, really make that change as well. It's a very small anecdote that happened with Indra Nooyi. One of the pathways leading to her office used to be a very rough cobble path. Earlier, there were only male CEOs, male department heads, and all who were walking, who normally wore, shoes which didn't get affected by the cobble path. And she said, I would walk past that and my heels would get stuck, and it was very uncomfortable. And one of the first few things she did when she took the corner office was to level that path up.
I love that.
So it's the equivalent of creating that level playing field, the equity angle there.
Yeah, like the literal version of it. I love it. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yeah, so I love that, and that you brought it back to kind of that equity versus equality conversation and how to make it. So what are ways that employers can sort of make it fair or make it equitable? What are some of the options that they have in terms of those choices?
Well, I'd love to hear more from you also about it, because that's like the core work that you're doing. One is on, like you mentioned, about being heard, creating that psychological safe space for people to raise issues. An organization may not get everything right, or and I don't want to. Organization is, after all, a bunch of people who are working there. Right. So there is no entity called an organization. It's the people there, right? So creating that space where people can raise issues, be heard, acknowledge, question policies, look for actioning some of those policies, being able to talk about it, implementing this. I think just that space is so crucial. And I think this differs across the world. I was speaking with somebody else on psychological safety, and I felt that it was almost like a Maslow's hierarchy. At a very base level, you just want, you want your pay and you want your paycheck and you want to be able to go home. That's a very basic level. Then moving it up one notch, are you having a good relationship with your team and all that? The final pinnacle would be where you are able to question, change, and action policies when you see things which are out of sync. And especially for talent management issues, especially around how do you create workspaces which can retain. And there is no one size fit all. There's no cookie cutter version on this, right? I might have a requirement that, like how I might want to travel with my newborn, and I want to have a facility where I can feed the child while I'm traveling on work. Yeah. So there are a lot of entrepreneurial ventures which came out of it. There was this organization, I forget the name of the organization, but in the US, which would help courier express milk bottles. Yes. Along, you could take them safely and go, and things like that. So really creating, while keeping the overall policy framework, creating so much of flexibility in it so that it meets everybody's requirement, and people feel that, yeah, fine, the organization is trying to do this for me. I have this, I was heard, I was listened to, and things were changed, things were implemented. What has been, if you have to think of one or two things which in your work you've seen work well at organization, what would those be, Sarah?
Yeah, I really love how you said about the hearing employees and implementing based on that. I think that is like so key to implementing any strategy, right? Is asking employees what they want. And then, noting your demographics. If there are a lot of people who are asking for, like you say, like breast milk shipping because they travel a lot, that's really important. If there's a lot of employees who are asking for gym memberships or meditation apps or whatever it is that they need to help them feel more productive and more safe in order to do their job. But so I think that's a key thing, and that as well that people are asking for is flexible benefits that can be used in various ways. So it's not like everyone has to use breast milk shipping, because obviously that doesn't apply to everyone, but maybe it is some kind of benefit wallet, so that if you want to use towards a gym membership, or if you want to use it towards breast milk shipping, or if you want to use it towards childcare, that those kinds of options that you have that are, then applicable. So it doesn't feel like you have to have a one size fits all policy, but rather here's a policy with, a bevy of options, right? That people can take advantage of depending on where their needs are. And that way it also works for employees at various stages. So if you have like very young employees who aren't maybe as worried yet about the childcare needs, or you have older employees who have kids who are no longer there and they have different needs, right? So by having those kind of flexible options, you can really, if you do have that kind of varied workforce, you can make sure that you're providing support no matter where they are. If they're going through a divorce, if a spouse died, if they're having kids, like no matter what their stage is, having those choices and those flexibilities. So again, it's not a one size fits all. It's not like a fair approach. That offers your employees so much more support. And I just think that is really beautiful when that can happen, when they feel supported at work.
Mm-hmm. I love the idea of wellness wallet. Really, being able to dip into various things that might resonate with you, and which is so specifically in that sense, it's customized for you, but it's available as a buffet, and you can like just go and pick things that work for you and all that. I really like that part of it. I mean, it always makes me think that sometimes it's the small things that make a difference. I was listening to this conversation that Frances Frey, Frei, again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her surname. She's a professor at Harvard, and she did that epic work with Uber when all those issues were going on with Uber. She was talking about a particular hospital where the nurses were leaving disproportionately. They went and said, yeah, what's happening here? I mean, is the boss rude? What is happening in the organization? What's going on? And they found out that the reason was broken photocopier machines.
What? Oh
yeah, exactly. What? That's because they had to, at the end of the shift, they had to take copies of some of the reports, and they would go on a floor where the photocopier was, and that would be working. So they would spend their time going up and down the stairs, trying to find a working photocopier machine. And they would cross each other when they were doing that, and they would roll their eyes and say, we are really valued here. What the hell kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this was making them leave that job. So sometimes, we need the big bang fix, which could be something like what Salesforce did in terms of saying that, we want to create gender pay parity. We will do a one swipe wipe thing and, invest billions of dollars and doing that, which is very important. Or sometimes the organization actually is doing well on certain parameters. It's a small things like the photocopying machine, which is causing a problem. So looking at making those changes, small or big, that would really also make people feel valued, supported, and wanting to just get into work, making that joyous, entry into work, whether it's or logging onto a Zoom call or getting actually into a workplace.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like that what you were just so on, that was so key about having people feel valued, right? And having them feel heard and valued is just, I think, probably the number 1 and 2 things that companies can do to really make a difference